Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, from Djibouti channels. Here are the headlines of our news editions. President of the National Assembly at the bedside of the victim of attack lions. Israel missile target Damascus airport. That were our top story. The President of the National Assembly, Mr. Mohammed Ali Hamad, went to the bedside of the patients attacked by the lion this morning at the General Pilti hospitals. Upon his arrival, he was greeted by the General Director of Pilti Hospital, who explained to him the state in which is currently the 3 victims of the lions. The 3 victims and 2 are in critical conditions, but the doctors have managed to stabilize their health. The President of the National Assembly, Mohammed Ali Hamad, had a briefing from the doctor on the case of the victims. He invited the health authorities to provide them with all necessary assistance to save the sick. On the other hand, the President of the Assembly said he was touched and saddened by this tragedy, which caused damage to the civilian population. The President of the Assembly reiterated his full support and availability to the victims of the lion's attack. The number 3 of the country was accompanied during the visit at the bedside of the victims of the lion by his parliamentarian colleagues, Mr. Omar Aden Saeed and Mr. Jibril, the local RTD deputy. The conference of the Delegate Ministry of Decentralization hosted a technical meeting to establish a commission to support the team of consultants in the consultative process on the state of play and review the birth registrations law. It saw the participation in addition to officials and executive of the delegated ministry in charge of decentralization and team of the office UNICEF Djibouti. The various officials of the civil statutes of Djibouti city and the region entire region of the country, as well as the head of sectorial ministries concerned about the issues of civil status. The meeting was introduced by the Secretary General of the Delegated Minister of Decentralization, Mr. Mohamed Isa, who briefly presented his objectives. UNICEF Deputy Representative Alexandra congratulated the Delegate Minister in charge of decentralization for his leadership and effort in the field of birth registrations. These 2 interventions were followed by the presentation by the National Consultancy of Methodology to be implemented of their studies, as well as by these constitutions of the Technical Commission. An important scientific day was held yesterday morning in the amphitheater of High Institute of Health Science, bringing together members of Cuban medical missions and their fellow Djiboutian. In fact, before beginning the scientific work on the agenda of this conference, the participants sang the national anthems of Cuba and Djibouti. Those marking the fraternal bonds maintained between the 2 countries. Note that the presence of the representative of the Minister of Health, Mr. Mahmoud Dabbar, and the Cuban ambassador to Djibouti, Mr. Lozara Boledo, who attended the opening of this day. This scientific day was therefore an opportunity for Cuban and Djiboutian practitioners to exchange information and share experience on key clinical cases encountered over the past year. It's a matter of exchanging and sharing together the rule of good practice in a permanent effort to mutually reinforce their knowledge through a straightening of the appropriate therapeutic protocols. Organized once a year, the 5th edition of the Scientific Day is an important meeting to bring the medical body in tune with the main cases treated, to share the different scientific points of view on the issues. At the end of this meeting, consensual recommendations are retained between Cuban and Djiboutian medical specialists to improve the quality of medical or chirurgical services for patients. The closing of the summer tournament at the Sheikh Moussa CDC brought together around 20 teams of all types. It should be remembered that this tournament started with 10 days and 10 women's teams. The finale of this football tournament took place between a large team from the Sheikh Moussa district, namely the Sheikh Moussa team, to selections of SDV Cup. Sheikh Moussa SPC women's team, despite their long triumphed in the final with 1 goal to 0 against the formations of SDV team. The closing ceremony took place in the presence of the many young people who invaded the platform of CDC from 5th to final attend the opening of doors and the launch of sports activities. The Djiboutian Football Federation, in collaboration with the official sponsor of the tournament, Abu Yasser International, just closed yesterday at the Hassan Guled Stadium the Super League tournament Abu Yasser. The last day of the Super League Abu Yasser began with a meeting that opposed the university against the gendarmerie. The confrontations between the two teams gave rise to a match full of twisted and which kept all its promises, and at the end the team of the university won the match with 1-0. Two other matches opposing to pour against the equipment of the Republican Guard, the formations of the Republican Guard to CDID defeat the poor par 3-1. The last day of the tournament saw the participation of President of the Djiboutian Federation Suleiman Hassan Waberi and the guest of honor Mr. Abu Yasser and the Secretary General of the State Youth and Sport. Secondly, the Secretary of State and Sport, who greeted the effort of all the agents of the Federation and the management of the stadium, who did a remarkable job during 1 month for the realization of this tournament. Before closing his interview, he thanked the directors who make effort to prepare this ceremony. And now let's move to the incontinental news. The Democratic Republic of the Congo threatened Saturday to leave the International Criminal Court 2 days before decision on a sentences on appeal against the Congolese Open Jean-Pierre Bemba, excluded from the presidential elections scheduled for December 23. In detail, the Congolese government stated that several Concord clues in the positions indicate that some government would exert pressures on ICC judge. This pressure would be on a case from the IC in relation to the situations in the DRC likely to have an impact on the current electoral processes. In this statement, the Congolese government seems to fear an acquittal to Mr. Bemba Mande, which would allow him to return to the face of the presidential election by the ICC, must decide on the sentences of the former warlord in a case of harboring witnesses. Appointment of President Joseph Kabila, Mr. Bemba was excluded from the presidential election in the DRC by the Electoral Commissions and the Constitutional Court because of this conviction pronounced by the ICC Court. Israeli missiles targeted the Damascus International Airport on Saturday, triggering a Syrian air defense response. The official Sana news agency reported, "Our air defense responded to an Israeli missile attack when the Damascus International Airport and shot down a number of hostile missiles," say a military source quoted by Sena, without reporting any casualties. The agency did not report immediate casualties of the damage, but broadcast video of the anti-aircraft system being triggered. The video shows a small luminous explosion in the night over the city. Here we come the end of this news. Thank you for watching us. Have a good night.